But I also think that one of the differences, what you named, I observed it also because I spent every year, last 10 years, 1 month in India and 11 months in Western Europe, and this sense of space is different in different parts of the world. So, for example, but also in terms of feeling of space and the space between two people. There's these two things. For example, like how we are sitting, we all kind of have equal distance now with each other because we put our stools in and find this balance here. And I remember a few years ago, my sister got married, and we had couple of 15 parties before that. But so we had this space, and I had to really switch to become an Indian to do that in an Indian way. So I got the space for a party before. And I'm like, okay, how I have to do it? I do it for my Indian family. So I actually ended up putting no chairs in the room, but there was enough space. But what happened was everybody sat there in the corner because one person came and sat, and the next one came to talk, and the next one came. So we had all this space and this whole group sitting. So this space towards other people, it's not a natural thing to find that. Also in terms of, for example, for adult men to walk hand in hand and being heterosexual in India is a very normal thing. I still have that with my old school friends when I'm back in Delhi. We are walking in a market holding hands. Yeah. If I do that here, he's a dancer anyways, and for sure he's gay. Yeah. But there are these cultural aspects which make, for example, our students from Fontys, from architecture department, they went to China. In China, you don't own ground. You cannot buy property. You can only buy rights to property for 30 years, or 6 years, I think. After that, it's back to the state. So people had this long problem with sense of private space. So what's happening in the last 10 years in China, that people who have this ground, they create this huge walls, so they make a compound for 30 years and they make the best garden and lakes and everything in it, because for 30 years they are allowed to have sense of private space. After that they have to give away. So having a compound is the biggest status in China right now when it comes to architecture. So culturally, the differences are amazingly big. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. I mean, I think it's such an interesting conference or event where you're looking across cultures around the issues around space. And two authors came up for me. One, Marcel Mauss, I think someone you would know, M-A-U-S-S or S-E, and then Tim Ingold, who's a cultural anthropologist. I know more about Tim Ingold, but Tim Ingold talks about in some of his writing feet, like he anthropologically looked at feet across cultures and how certain cultures wear different kinds of shoes and how the feet kind of evolve and are. And then chairs, this thing about chairs in Western culture, and he's really looking at furniture and how furniture has really affected the way we experience our bodies in different cultures based on what's been built. Because the chair is a horrible idea, actually. Steve Paxton, as you guys know, the guy who invented contact improv, I was showing a lecture to my students, and at the end he said, okay, we have a question and answer session here, but I have a few questions. And he just goes through all these questions, and one question was, why did we ever invent the chair? Bad idea. So anyways, thinking about cultures and body and movement, I think about Tim Ingold and Marcel Mauss, and just really thanks for bringing that up, because I'm coming from obviously my cultural background and my kind of perspective, but it is one of the things that comes up when I look at dance in the museum, to bring that back, of who's getting presented in dance in the museum, and it is a pretty small slice of, I think, what's happening in dance, culturally speaking, and that was something that nobody in the book talked about. And Guy Coles, some of us talked about Guy Coles, who was at the heart of the beginning of some of this Erasmus activity. He read the whole book. He said he couldn't believe that none of the curators and none of the dance artists, that just didn't come up, of who's being shown, mainly kind of postmodern, Caucasian, middle class artists primarily, and why is that, and who isn't getting shown in the museum. So that's something I've become interested to look at as well. So yeah.